The slap echoed across the marble driveway. Linda's cheek burned, not from pain, but from humiliation. Security guards in crisp uniforms pretended not to see. Her fiancé, the man she'd worked herself out to satisfy and please for 8 months, glared at her like she was trash. "Leave," Daejung hissed, his hand still raised. "You're embarrassing me." She stood there in her wrinkled nurse scrubs, the expensive watch she'd bought him glinting on his wrist. The watch she'd worked double shifts to afford. She didn't know that upstairs, behind a wall of security monitors, a billionaire was watching. And he was furious. If you understand what denial and betrayal means, then click that subscribe button. You don't want to miss what happens next. 6 months earlier, Linda had believed in second chances. She sat across from her fiancé in their cramped Seoul apartment, the kind with walls so thin you could hear neighbors breathing. Rent was overdue. Again. "I have an interview tomorrow," he said, not looking up from his phone. "A friend's company. It's practically guaranteed." Linda's nurse uniform hung on the bathroom door, still damp from hand-washing. She couldn't afford the laundromat this week. "That's great, baby." She smiled, even though she'd heard this exact sentence 14 times in 8 months. "I picked up an extra shift on Saturday. We'll be okay." They were not okay. Korea had promised them everything. Better opportunities, higher salaries, a fresh start. Daejung had been so confident when they'd arrived from the Philippines. "Trust me," he'd said. "I'll take care of us." But Seoul was expensive, competitive, and unforgiving. Her nursing license transferred. His business degree did not. So Linda worked. Double shifts at the hospital. Night shifts, holiday shifts. She came home with swollen feet and empty eyes, and he'd be on the couch, controller in hand. "How was work?" he'd ask, pausing his game. "Exhausting." "Yeah, I had a rough day too. Job hunting is mentally draining." She'd find him beer bottles by the trash, receipts from PC rooms where he'd spent hours gaming with friends. Once she discovered a charge for a Norabang, 180,000 for a private room. "Networking," he'd explained. "You have to invest to get opportunities here." She paid the rent, the utilities, the groceries. She sent money home to her mother in Manila, and she bought him new clothes for interviews that never materialized. And she told herself this was love. This was partnership. This was temporary. Then she found the messages. His phone had buzzed on the kitchen counter while he was in the shower. Linda glanced at it, not meaning to snoop, but the preview was right there. "Last night was fun. When can I see you again?" The sender? Ji-won. Linda's hands went numb. She unlocked his phone. She knew the password, he'd never hidden it, and scrolled through weeks of conversations. Flirty emojis, late-night meetups, a photo of him and a woman at a cafe, her hand on his arm. When he came out of the bathroom, towel around his waist, she was crying. "Who's Ji-won?" His face shuddered. "A friend." Friends don't send kissing emojis at 2 a.m. "Linda, you're being paranoid." He grabbed his phone from her hands. "I'm stressed about being unemployed. I need people to talk to. You're always at work." "Because someone has to pay rent. And you think I don't feel like shit about that?" His voice rose, sharp and defensive. "You think I enjoy this? I'm trying, Linda. Korea is tough. The competition is insane. I just need more time." She wanted to scream, to throw him out, to pack her bags and disappear. Instead, she whispered, "Please don't do this to me." "I'm not doing anything. You're imagining things because you're tired and stressed." He pulled on a shirt, his back to her. "Ji-won is just a friend. If you can't trust me, then what's the point?" Manipulation wrapped in concern. She knew what this was, but she was exhausted. Too exhausted to fight, too exhausted to leave, too exhausted to imagine starting over alone in a country where she barely spoke the language. So she believed him, or pretended to. Because believing was easier than facing the truth. 3 months later, everything changed. "Linda, Linda." Daejung burst through the apartment door, grinning wider than she'd seen in a year. "I got it. I got the job." She dropped the medical journal she'd been reading. "What? Where?" "Private driver for a CEO, Park Min-jae. You know, the Park Min-jae owns half the tech companies in Gangnam. The salary is 8 million a month." Linda's breath caught. She had helped him apply when he left his phone on the desk, oblivious of the benefits it would come with. 8 million won, more than double what most drivers made, more than she made as a nurse. "Baby, that's incredible." She threw her arms around him, tears streaming down her face. Finally. Finally, things were turning around. That weekend, she took him shopping. A new suit, charcoal gray, perfectly tailored, Italian leather shoes, a watch from a boutique in Myeongdong, the kind with a sapphire crystal face that cost her entire month's salary. "You deserve this," she said, fastening it around his wrist. "I'm so proud of you." He kissed her forehead. "I couldn't have done it without you." For 2 weeks, everything was perfect. Then he stopped coming home. Late shift, he'd text. "Boss needs me early." When he did come home, he was different, distant. He'd shower immediately, scrubbing himself like he was washing something away. His cologne smelled expensive and unfamiliar. "You look tired," he said one evening, his eyes scanning her faded pajamas with something like distaste. "Maybe you should, I don't know, dress better, take care of yourself." Linda looked down at herself. Nursing shifts didn't leave much room for glamour. "I just worked a 12-hour shift, right?" He turned away. "I'm just saying, I work with wealthy people now. It's a different world. You wouldn't understand." She tried harder. She cooked his favorite meals, adobo, sinigang, lumpia from scratch. She ironed his shirts with military precision. She asked about his day, his boss, his new life. He answered in monosyllables, eyes on his phone. One night, she called him 15 times. No answer. Panic clawed at her throat. What if something had happened? What if he was hurt? She took a taxi to the address he'd given her, a massive estate in Seongbuk-dong, all glass and steel and impossible wealth. Security gates. Manicured gardens, a fountain that probably cost more than her annual salary. The guard at the gate spoke into his radio, then waved her through. Daejin met her in the circular driveway and his face was pure fury. "What are you doing here?" "I was worried. You didn't answer my calls." "So you came to my workplace?" He grabbed her arm, dragging her away from the main entrance. "Do you have any idea how this looks? I'm sorry, You just what? Wanted to embarrass me?" He shoved her, not hard enough to knock her down, but enough to make her stumble. "I told you I was working." "Daejin, please." She reached for him, trying to touch his face, and that's when she smelled it. Perfume, sweet, expensive, floral. On his collar, a pink stain that happened to be from the kiss of a lady's lips stained his cheeks. "You've been with someone." His eyes went cold. "Don't start this again." "I can smell her perfume." The slap came out of nowhere. Her head snapped to the side, cheek exploding in heat. The world tilted. She tasted copper. Security guards stood frozen by the entrance, their faces carefully blank. One of them looked away. Daejin's voice was ice. "Leave. Now, before I call security and have you removed as a trespasser." "Daejin, I don't know you." His words were precise, final. "You're some desperate woman who followed me here. You're embarrassing. You're beneath me. Go back to whatever hole you crawled out of." Linda couldn't breathe, couldn't think. The man she'd fed, clothed, supported for almost a year was looking at her like she was nothing. Like she had always been nothing. She turned and walked toward the gate, vision blurred with tears, the taste of blood on her tongue. She didn't see the security camera above the entrance. She didn't see the man watching from the third-floor window. Linda made it 3 steps past the gate before the assistant appeared. "Miss." The woman was elegant, professional, somewhere in her 40s. "Mr. Park would like to see you." Linda's stomach dropped. "I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cause trouble," she pleaded. "You're not in trouble." The woman's voice was kind, which somehow made it worse. "Please, this way." The estate's interior was museum quality. Marble floors, art that belonged in galleries. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Seoul's skyline, the city glittering like scattered diamonds. The assistant led her to an office, all dark wood and leather, and the kind of understated wealth that didn't need to announce itself. Behind a massive desk sat Park Min-jae. He was younger than she'd expected, late 30s maybe, with sharp cheekbones and calculating eyes. His suit probably cost more than her yearly rent. He studied her with the same intensity someone might study a painting. "Sit," he said, not unkind, just absolute. Linda sat, acutely aware of her wrinkled scrubs, her unwashed hair, the mascara probably running down her face. "That man." Park's voice was precise, his English tinged with a British accent from overseas education. "He's your boyfriend? Fiancé?" The word tasted like ash. 3 years. Park leaned back, fingers steepled. "He told security you were a stalker, said he'd never seen you before in his life." The words landed like physical blows. "He said you were." Park consulted a tablet, too cheap for his stage in life now. Linda's vision blurred. She pressed her palms against her eyes, trying to hold herself together, trying not to completely shatter in front of this stranger. A handkerchief appeared in her line of vision, silk, monogrammed. "Thank you," she whispered. Park waited. He didn't rush her, didn't look uncomfortable with her tears. He just waited, patient as stone. "I supported him for 8 months, Linda finally said. "Paid everything, rent, food, bills, everything." She said amidst eyes blurred with tears, heart shattering into many fragments. "Why? Because I loved him. Because I thought he needed time. I was foolish." "You're a nurse." She looked up, startled. "How?" "Your badge." He gestured to her scrubs. "Seoul National University Hospital, intensive care unit." His eyes sharpened with what might have been respect. "That's not easy work." "No, it's not. Why did you come to Korea?" The question caught her off guard. "Better opportunities, higher salary. I send money home to my mother in Manila." Park nodded slowly, something shifting in his expression. "I built my first company with 500,000 borrowed from my grandmother. Everyone said I'd fail, too young, too ambitious, too hungry. They were half right. I was hungry. Starving, actually. So I worked harder than everyone else, slept less, wanted it more." He stood, walking to the window. "I value 3 things: competence, loyalty, and hunger. You're competent. ICU nurses don't last without skill. You're loyal, to a fault, apparently, and you're hungry. You wouldn't be in Korea otherwise." Linda had no idea where this was going. Park turned back to her. "I need a private nurse, live-in position, 50 million monthly, plus housing, meals, full benefits. You'd be on call, but my health needs are minimal. Mostly preventive care, stress management, occasional evening medication." 15 million won. Double what she made now. Housing included. "Why me?" "Because people who've been broken understand loyalty, and I value loyalty above everything." He returned to his desk, pulled out a contract. "Also, because that man doesn't deserve you, but I might." The last sentence hung in the air, heavy with implication. "I don't understand." "You will." His smile was slight, dangerous. "Do we have an agreement?" Linda thought about her cramped apartment, about double shifts and aching feet and coming home to an empty bed. About working herself to exhaustion for someone who'd hit her and called her cheap. About having nothing left to lose. "Yes." Park's smile widened a fraction. "Welcome to the family, Linda." The first week was disorienting. Her quarters weren't quarters. They were a suite. Bedroom with a king bed and Egyptian cotton sheets, private bathroom with a soaking tub, a sitting area with floor-to-ceiling bookshelves. "This is too much," she'd told the house manager. "Mr. Park insists his staff live comfortably." Park himself was an enigma. He worked brutal hours, ran his empire with calculated precision, and treated her with careful courtesy. Every morning at 7 a.m. she'd check his vitals, blood pressure, heart rate, a brief physical assessment. "You're stressed," she'd observe. "I run 3 companies. Your cortisol levels will kill you before competition does." He'd laugh at that, a real laugh, not the polite corporate version. Noted. Evenings, he'd request tea in his study. Not because he needed it, she realized, but because he wanted company. They'd talk about soul, about building something from nothing, about the weight of expectations. "Why nursing?" he asked one night. "Control," Linda said honestly. "In nursing I can fix things. Set a broken bone, stabilize a crashing patient, save a life. Everything has protocols, procedures, certainty. And in life? In life you can do everything right and still lose." Park studied her over his tea. "Not always." The next day a package arrived. Designer clothes in her size, not scrubs but elegant pieces. Tailored slacks, silk blouses, a coat that fit perfectly. "Mr. Park wants you to have a professional wardrobe," the assistant explained. When Linda tried to refuse, Park cut her off. "You represent my household now. Consider it a uniform." But it wasn't a uniform. It was transformation. He enrolled her in advanced nursing courses, the expensive ones, the ones that would make her credentials internationally recognized. He bought her medical textbooks she'd been eyeing for months. "Investment in my staff," he said dismissively, but his eyes lingered when she laughed. His hand would brush hers when passing tea. He'd find excuses to call her to his study just to talk, and Linda slowly started to feel something she hadn't felt in years. Scene. One night, 3 months in, they stayed up past midnight discussing a business deal he was considering. Linda had no expertise in tech acquisitions, but he valued her perspective, the human element, the ethical considerations. "You're wasted on medicine," he said finally. "You should run companies." "I like saving lives. You could save more with resources." He leaned closer, voice dropping, "With power. Is that what you want, to save people?" "I want to build something that lasts." His eyes locked on hers. "With someone who understands what it costs to build it." The air between them crackled. "Park, Min-jae," he corrected softly. "Just Min-jae." Before she could respond, his phone buzzed. "Work emergency." The moment broke. But something had shifted. Daejun noticed he'd seen her occasionally around the estate, always from a distance, always when she was with Min-jae. She ignored him completely, like he was furniture. It drove him insane. One evening he cornered her in the garage. "Linda, we need to talk." She didn't stop walking. "No, we don't. I made a mistake. I was stupid, okay? Scared. The job, the pressure. I wasn't thinking clearly." She reached her car, a sleek sedan Min-jae had assigned her. "You were thinking perfectly clearly. You decided I wasn't good enough." "That's not. You hit me." She turned, and her eyes were ice. "You called me cheap. You told security I was a stalker. Kat, you erased 3 years like I was nothing." I panicked. "I'm sorry," he apologized, eyes glinting on how beautiful she now was. "So am I." She opened her car door. "I'm sorry I wasted 3 years on someone who only valued me when I was useful." "He doesn't love you," Daejun spat. "You're just a project, a charity case." Linda smiled, and it was razor sharp. "Maybe, but he's never raised his hand to me, never made me feel small, never made me question my worth." She drove away, leaving him in the rearview mirror, where he belonged. The announcement came at the monthly staff meeting. "Effective immediately," Min-jae said, voice carrying across the conference room. "Linda Santos is promoted to Director of Household Operations. She'll oversee all domestic staff, including security, drivers, and grounds maintenance." Daejun's face went white. Linda sat beside Min-jae at the head of the table, wearing a tailored suit that cost more than Daejun's monthly salary. On her finger, a diamond ring caught the light. After the meeting, whispers exploded through the staff. Are they? Min-jae answered by taking her hand in public. By introducing her at a corporate event as my fiancée, Linda. Daejun had been there, parking cars. He'd watched her step out of a Bentley, wearing a gown that shimmered like starlight, Min-jae's hand at the small of her back, proprietary and proud. She'd walked right past Daejun without a glance. The next week, Linda called him to her new office. "Sit." He sat. She slid a paper across the desk. "Your new salary structure." He read it again. This is minimum wage. Do not do this to me, dear." "Correct. You're now the lowest paid employee in this household," Linda replied coldly. "You can't." "I can." "I do." Her voice was calm, professional. "Additionally, you're being reassigned. You're no longer Mr. Park's driver. You're mine." The words hit like a slap. "You'll drive me to the hospital for my shifts. You'll pick me up. You'll run my errands, pick up my dry cleaning, and wait on my schedule." She leaned back, fingers steepled exactly like Min-jae. "Any questions?" Daejun's jaw worked. "This is revenge." "No," Linda said softly. "This is consequence." She was no longer his. The signs were obvious. The first morning was perfect torture. Daejun stood beside the black sedan in his driver's uniform, jaw clenched, as Linda descended the mansion steps in full designer glory. Hairstyled, makeup flawless, confidence radiating from every pore. She stopped at the car door, waited. Daejun's hands shook as he opened it. "Thank you," Linda said pleasantly, sliding into the back seat. "Yes, ma'am," he forced through gritted teeth. In the rearview mirror, their eyes met. She smiled. It became routine. Every morning he'd open her door. Every evening, he'd wait outside the hospital for hours just to drive her home. He'd carry her bags, pick up her prescriptions, wait in parking lots while she had lunch with Min-jae. He was invisible, furniture, exactly what he'd made her feel. 1 month in, he broke. They were in the garage alone. He grabbed her arm as she passed. "How long are you going to punish me?" Linda looked at his hand on her arm, then at his face. "Let go. Not until you listen. Let go." Something in her voice made him release her. "I gave you everything," he said, and he was crying now. 3 years. I was going to marry you. You hit me. You called me cheap. You erased me." Her voice didn't waver. "The man I loved died the moment you raised your hand. This isn't punishment. It's simply showing you what you already believed, that life can always change, and you should never bite the fingers that once held you when you were down, that you work for me, that you exist at my convenience. He's using you, he spat. Maybe. She adjusted her bag. But I'm using him too. We're building something together, an empire, a life, a partnership. What did you build with me? Nothing. You took and took until there was nothing left. I loved you. Linda's expression softened just for a moment. No, you loved what I did for you. There's a difference. She walked away. He didn't follow. That night, Linda found Min-jae on the rooftop terrace overlooking Seoul's glittering sprawl. You've been quiet today, he observed. She joined him at the railing. Daejun asked how long I'm going to punish him. What did you say? Then I'm not punishing him. I'm just living my life. Min-jae turned to face her fully. Are you living your life, or still defining yourself in opposition to him? The question landed like a stone in still water. I don't know, Linda admitted. Sometimes I look at him and feel satisfaction. Sometimes I feel nothing. Sometimes I feel sad for who I used to be, the woman who believed love meant sacrificing everything. And now I know love means partnership, respect, seeing someone's value and protecting it, not exploiting it. Min-jae reached for her hand. Linda, I need you to understand something. I didn't hire you to hurt him. I didn't promote you to give you revenge. I did it because you're brilliant, competent, and you see through my bullshit. She laughed despite herself. I'm serious. His grip tightened. Do I enjoy watching him open car doors for you? Absolutely. Am I glad he has to witness you thriving? Yes, but that's not why He stopped, seemed to recalibrate. That's not why I want you here. Then why? Because you make me want to be better than the ruthless bastard everyone thinks I am. He cupped her face gently. You saved me as much as I saved you. Linda's breath caught. Min-jae, I love you. The words were simple, certain, not as a project, not as revenge, as a partner, as an equal, as someone I want to build everything with. Tears blurred her vision, but this time they were clean, healing. I love you too. He kissed her then, slow and deep, and full of promises that felt real this time, earned. When they broke apart, he pressed his forehead to hers. Fire him, tomorrow. He doesn't deserve to be anywhere near you. No, Linda said. Let him stay. Let him watch us build something beautiful. Let him see what he threw away. Min-jae's smile was sharp, proud. Vicious. I love it. I learned from the best. 6 months later, Linda graduated from her advanced nursing program with honors. Min-jae sat in the front row, beaming with unfiltered pride. He had helped her rise in status. After the ceremony, they walked hand in hand through the university gardens. Her ring caught the sunlight, a different ring now, an engagement ring that he'd presented at a private dinner. No cameras, no performance, just them. What's next, he asked. I'm thinking about opening a clinic. Free healthcare for migrant workers. Filipinos, Indonesians, Vietnamese, people who fall through the cracks. Min-jae stopped walking. That's perfect. I'll fund it. Min-jae. I'm serious. That's exactly the kind of legacy I want to build. With you. Through the garden gates, barely visible, a figure watched. Daejun. He'd been fired the week before, not for incompetence, but for inappropriate behavior toward junior staff. He'd tried to leverage his connection to Linda, hadn't realized she'd already signed off on his termination. Now he watched the woman he discarded walk away with a man who actually deserved her. Linda saw him. Their eyes met across the distance. She didn't gloat, didn't wave, didn't acknowledge him at all. She simply turned back to Min-jae, laughed at something he said, and walked deeper into the gardens, into her future, away from her past. The gates closed behind them with a quiet, final click. The best revenge isn't destruction. It's building a life so beautiful, they regret ever leaving. If you have watched this video to this point, then thanks for your endless support. Do not forget to click the subscribe button. I love you all.